Hey traders, Cousin Vinny coming to you on Sunday, March 30th with a market read and watch list for the week ahead. This is a sector performance chart of the S&P 500 main sectors. We can see that for the past 2 days of trading, energy far outperformed the sectors here to the right, where healthcare, utilities, financials, and consumer staples underperformed over those 2 days, and commensurately the cyclicals, industrials, materials, and energy sectors outperformed. Switching to a view of our scans, we can see back on the 27th, back on the 22nd, we saw quite a few energy names showing up on our Bollinger Band Keltner TTM scan. So by the 22nd, and I've deleted a few of these, we started to see a lot of energy names showing up on our scan, and many of these names have since gone on to really nice gains. Halliburton was a trade that we took, as well as CNQ, Canadian Natural Resources. Now Mikey took FANG, F-A-N-G, Diamondback Energy, that did quite well this week. Ranking these on the 22nd, the scan that showed up on the 22nd, when we rank these, we can see that the abundance of these that made really nice moves were all in the energy sector. So over a week ago, we saw this starting to play out on our sector scans. Now if we look at the scan for the weekend, we see the same scenario setting up. Energy, a lot of energy names showing up. And if we sort these by sector, again we can see the names that are on this list. Now if we sort them by their scooter or stock charts ranking system, which is very similar to Investors Business Daily's ranking system, we can see that again energy starts to show up quite clearly. And of course we also see utilities, technologies, materials, and other sectors showing up here as well. So we'll be watching financials, for example. There's about 10 names here showing up. The industrials are starting to show up. So we'll be looking at these sectors as well once energy gets overbought. Just very quickly, I'm seeing healthcare, medical supplies, and equipment are showing up quite a bit. And on the energy side, oil and exploration are showing up. And I would attribute a lot of that to the news over in Russia, Crimea, and companies positioning themselves for the possibility of Europe and parts of the former Russian republics looking for energy elsewhere from Russia if Putin continues his current scenarios, his current military escapade. Looking at the NASDAQ composite, we have this uptrend that we've been in for 2013 into 2014, and we did test this on Thursday and Friday. On previous tests where we had a hammer, we had nice volume to the upside following. So we're waiting to see what happens with the comp. Now remember, the comp, a lot of this weakness is attributed to the biotech sector, which the NASDAQ has quite a few names, big caps in the index. So you would expect this to see weakness currently because of the weighting of big cap, pharma, and biotech stocks in this index. Do note, however, on Thursday and Friday we did find some support at the 618 retracement. We also see our indicators all getting into a buy zone, so we could see a short-term bounce over the next few weeks with respect to sentiment and the presidential midterm cycle, where we see more positive days from March into mid-April, and then we start to see underperformance in the sectors after April through the summer and into October and November, where we start to see the cycle begin again, where sentiment changes and we see more positive results in the S&P, the indexes in general. With respect to the Dow Industrials, RSI continues to hover around the 50 level. We have seen higher highs, and prices have gone nowhere for the last several weeks. We are above these highs that we saw in late November, early December, however, and some of the indicators are pointing to the possibility that we could see a short-term bounce in the near future. Big caps seem to be faring better than small caps, as we've noted, where we shift over to the Russell 2000 small caps. Note that RSI is turning and that we're at the 50% retracement level of these pivots at 1082.72 and 1212.82. So we should see some decision here. We do have a lower trend line to deal with. That would be at the 618 retracement. We could conceivably come down here and bounce. We do note that the Russell does have numerous small cap biotech stocks in this index as well, so keep that in mind. When we look at the indicators, we see Stowe is oversold, MACD is approaching an area where we could see a turn, and the Russell performance to the S&P 500 is continuing its sideways trend. Medium term and short term, we see it moving down as we would expect. Note CCI. We did have a double bounce on the CCI, or a double dip previously, so we could conceivably see something like that, or a buy signal on CCI this week. The S&P 500 chart that we see here, note the Bollinger Bands are squeezing, so volatility is contracting, which is setting us up for an expansion in volatility. If you follow our TTM squeeze Bollinger Band Keltner scan, this is what we use to enter a lot of our trades. Currently we're trading sideways on the S&P 500 with lower volatility. So lower volatility usually begets higher volatility, where we see a squeeze and then a breakout in volatility, which is what we're expecting. Being sentiment is positive for the most part, leading out of March into mid-April. The next few weeks should see a move to the upside. We could see some sideways chop. Looking at indicators, we would expect CPC to spike at some point. We don't have that yet. RSI is bouncing. VIX is sideways. We had a spike a week or so ago, so we're expecting another spike if you follow Yukarowitz's thought process at all. Bollinger Band %B is midline, which you would expect with BACD being what it is, with the Bollinger Band squeezing. So we're looking for a resumption in higher volatility here in the short term very soon. What is interesting and somewhat uncorrelated to the S&P and the other indexes is the fact that DBV, the Deutsche Bank Currency Harvest Fund, or the carry trade, is moving higher. Now, if you follow me, you know that a move higher on DBV is bullish for stocks and a move lower is bearish for stocks. And lately we've seen the indexes moving sideways with the carry trade moving higher. So we want to see a resumption there of the correlation. Currently we're not seeing much from this, but we expect that to correct itself in the near future. The 10-year yield, again, chopping sideways, while the 10-year yield chopping sideways, So we're watching what effect that has on a flattening of the yield curves. This is the 3-month here at the top and the 2-year right in this section here. So this is pretty much flat on these two. And that has an effect on interest sensitive stocks like the builders, REITs, which is moving sideways, and utilities, which pay decent dividends. And we can see utilities moving higher. This is a chart of the CRB index. Note that we had this really nice move the beginning of the year through February and flagging in March, and we're starting to see a resumption of that trend higher. Gold weekly, we moved up to a 382 retracement, and we moved back off of that level, and currently we see for the past 2 weeks gold has been down. Note MACD looks like it's turning, so we could see lower prices this week as well on gold. Also note RSI. This is a chart of the S&P Composite 1500 index, which comprises the big caps, the mid caps, and the smaller 600. We're moving sideways. We're above the levels that we put in December, January, those highs. We look to be testing that level again for the 3rd time, with breadth moving sideways. With regard to TLT, we had this sideways range and TLT is moving higher. We have a Kirby over here. Now we see less resistance to a move higher on TLT. Also note the volume. CCI is pointing down. We want to see that continue to stay above the 100 level on CCI if you are long bonds. MACD continues to move higher. So TLT looks pretty good on the weekly as well as on the daily. And the Arca Institutional Index, which I follow with the mindset that there's a lot of big cap stocks in here that the institutions follow. It's comprised of 75 stocks that most institutions have as their core holdings, and as a result you can see that we are continuing to test these highs that we put in this year, and we're seeing higher lows presently, but some indecision in these candles that we saw Thursday and Friday. We are approaching oversold on stochastics, and MACD is pretty much flat to sideways on the Arca Institutional Index. And these are the names that are in this list. So let's look at some stocks real quick. The latest scan for the weekend we'll look at a candle glance format. Energy, as we noted, a nice pattern here, a breakout on Friday with MACD turning up, and we see volume. EOG, a leader in the space, cup and handle, breakout, MACD's moving sideways. This should resume this move north as well as an increase in volume. Portends a move to the upside, continuation pattern as well. So this looks good. Alerian, AMLP, we looked at this weekend. We note this trend line here and an accumulation on volume as well as MACD turning, which is what we want to see in this particular kind of setup. Avalon Bay has been on the list for a couple of weeks now. We see this nice cup and handle. We're breaking above that pivot. We tried to break out last week, and the trend continues to be up on the Keltner channel, while the Bollinger Bands are moving sideways. Baker Hughes, I like this chart and marked this up over the weekend. Note that we're breaking above these levels here, and we have a bullish cross on the MACD. So we should see higher prices. Note the volume as well. Chubb, CB, note that we're breaking above these previous recent highs, and the Kirby level here. MACD is continuing higher, and note the volume that we see here. Cimarex Energy has been on the scan, XCC, note MACD, and prices continue to move higher. Concho, CXO, Mikey had mentioned this stock last week. I didn't trade it, but we did see a little break of this handle on this cup and handle pattern. Note MACD as well as turning. Continental Resources, CLR, really liked this chart. Cup and handle here again, breaking higher, increased volume, and MACD has turned as well as stochastics. Note RSI is also moving higher, so this one should continue. Denbury Resources, DNR, has been on the scan for some time now, for the last few weeks. Note the Kirby level here we pointed out, and we're finally starting to see a move above that level. Less resistance to a move higher here, considering the VPOC for Kirby, and MACD continues to move higher with RSI trending. Devon Energy's been on the scan for some time. Note the highs here back in October. This pivot we're breaking above the increase in volume and a MACD cross, which is what we want to see. Duke Energy, nice flat cup, sort of a weak cup and handle, but it is trending a little bit higher, and MACD's turning. Not my favorite stock in the utility index, but I do like it. Energen, EGN, I noted the volume on this stock, this accumulation, a nice cup and handle pattern. MACD's moving sideways. I would expect this to turn in the near future. Note this really large Kirby here. ExxonMobil, pointed out by Options Hawk, moving higher. MACD's turning. Note some of these REITs as well. Healthcare REIT continues to move higher. I would expect this to continue with TNX continuing to move sideways, since some of these names have been showing up on the scan in the financial sector. GDP, Goodrich Petroleum, breaking a trend, 6-month downtrend. MACD's moving higher, yes. Kodiak, Oil and Gas, KOG, we've traded before. Nice pattern here. Looks like we're getting some pressure to the upside with a MACD turning. And note the volume and stochastics as well. Note the Kirby here. And we're starting to move above these prices, so we should see a breakout here this week. Not a guarantee, just an observation. Noting Kohl's, KSS, in the retail sector. Interesting development here. We could see a spread double top, spread triple top that it's breaking above, and MACD is turning as well. I'm not going to focus too much on retail stocks this week, with energy doing what it's doing, with energy outperforming. Noble Energy broke out Thursday, continues to look good, moving higher. Let's see these recent highs at 77, with MACD turning and RSI moving higher. Note the volume and the Kirby levels here. PDC Energy with a nice cup and handle pattern. MACD's moving sideways. I'd like to see this turn to give us an entry. Taking out this pivot would be a continuation pattern to the upside on this cup and handle. Plains All American, PAA. This is a pipeline company in the energy sector. Note MACD's turning, RSI is moving higher. Interest in volume. This could see some play with Keystone Pipeline and names like this one. Check the IBD numbers on this before you trade something like this, and also the short percent. Note the IYR could be something that could see money rotate into after energy plays out, although I do see energy being more of a longer term trend. Note the cup and handle and MACD turning. So we'll keep an eye on IYR and real estate shares in the near future. A name in that group, Simon Properties, looks pretty interesting here with the breakout of this short-term descending channel pattern. And note MACD and volume. Senior Housing, S&H, note the inverted pattern here, and we're testing that trend line. Also note MACD and RSI as well as volume. XOP, the oil and gas spider, oil and production, exploration and production spider. We noted last week the break of this trend line occurring on Thursday and Friday, and MACD drifting higher. UPL, Ultra Petroleum, this one looks good as well, broke out last week on volume. Note MACD and RSI as well as this VPOC or Kirby level here. Alright, so that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from clothingprint.com with a scan, setups, and a look at the week ahead on March the 30th